Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We're on the road today, but we always have JC standing by on a Wednesday morning. And second portion of today's show, we're going to have Ryan Fowler from, I think it's 100.9 The Game up in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
We'll get his thoughts on Alabama rolling into Gainesville, get the vibe of what's going on in Tuscaloosa. But in the meantime, good morning, JC. How are you?
Hey, Shane. I'm doing great, man. I've been listening to a lot of sports talk, been watching a lot of podcasts, just trying to get a feel for what folks are saying.
Is that what you
about
do?
This game? Well, I don't really, but this week is different. This week is different. And
why, are you nervous?
No, I want to hear what people say. No, I'm definitely not what you would call nervous. I'm not, Shane, I'm not. Believe it or not, I'm not playing in this game.
Well, I mean, you normally get nervous when Alabama plays, like you're actually playing in the game.
I do. Well, I'm pretty bought in. That's my alma mater. But, I also went to the University of Florida, and my whole family are Florida Gators, everybody, except my wife, of course. But everybody's a Florida Gator in this family. My dad was a tenured professor for 45 years. Highly decorated. My brother graduated with honors from the University of Florida. My youngest son, who's 21, is a Florida Gator senior this semester. And, in the same class, I think, as your son at Florida. Grew up going to all the Gator games in the 70s before leaving for college. So, I mean, there's a lot of Florida Gator here.
So are you going to be that guy, JC?
It's going to be one of those days.
Are you going to be that guy at the game Saturday that has one of those jerseys where half is Gators, half is Alabama?
No, I can't do that. I mean, I have to make a nice appearance. I'm going to be in one of the areas of the stadium that, you need to kind of look somewhat presentable.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true at all.
It is for me. I don't want to look like some guy that came out of the Daytona 500, okay, and is walking into somewhere to eat. I don't want to look like that. But, I mean, I'm going to be enjoying the day just as everyone else will. And, QB, since 1992, Alabama and Florida have met 17 times, and 10 of those 17 games have come in the SEC title game, if you can believe that. And, this is Alabama's, let's see, they've won 7 straight against Florida, and Dan Mullen is 0-10. So at some point, that's got to change, doesn't it? And so a lot of folks are thinking, well, gee whiz, those numbers don't look very good for Florida. It's got to change. This could be the perfect time. We're going to have 90,000 plus at the Swamp. The crowd's going to be energized. Everybody's really been waiting for this one. Florida has circled this game on its calendar. This is the biggest game of the year for the Florida Gators, right? It's always like Alabama. When Alabama plays Florida, it's always the biggest of the year, at least to this point. I know there'll be bigger games down the road if Florida wins. So we'll see.
Well, even if Florida loses, the Georgia game's the biggest game.
Well, it will be, but hopefully that'll matter, right? I mean, you still have to play Kentucky and Missouri before you get to Georgia. But I hear what you're saying. Look, Alabama is one of those teams that has won a lot of games, obviously. They've won 31 straight games against the SEC East. 31 straight games against the SEC East.
Do you know who the last team to beat Alabama from the SEC East?
I'm gonna say it was South Carolina in 2010.
Yep, the head ball coach.
But that was 11 years ago, and and that's a long time for the SEC East not to have beaten Alabama. It is Bryce Young's first true road game. The last time the Florida played Alabama here, the Gators scored on the first play of the game. I don't know if you remember that. That was in 2011, but the game didn't turn out well as Johnny Brantley got hurt, and it ended up 38-10. But
we scored on the first play of the game?
The Gators scored on the
kickoff
first play of
return?
the game. It had to be. I can't remember what it was, but you scored on the first play of the game, and I just read that out of this book. But I was at the game, so I don't know why I don't remember that. I really don't know why. It was first play from scrimmage, obviously. It wasn't the first play, the kickoff or any of that. And I want to say it was when John threw a corner route into the end zone of the north end zone, and they scored. They were up 10-0, if you recall. Florida was up 10-0 in that game. And then when Courtney Upshaw sat on Johnny Brantley, which was left tackle's fault, that kind of ended the day. But or there was a turnover or something happened. It's hard to believe that was 11 years ago. But that's why, QB, I've always said if we could just play 9 games in this conference, we won't have this disparity of time or this length of time between West and East. And it is going to change. It's certainly going to change when you bring in Texas and Oklahoma here soon. So, this is a great rivalry. I mean, it really is. It's one of those rivalries that doesn't seem to get played enough unless it's in the SEC championship game. I wish it was played more during the regular season. I wish Florida played Auburn more during the regular season. Certainly with LSU being the permanent crossover opponent, Florida gets a taste of a good team out west every year. But this is a good rivalry. It's gone one-sided here lately. But these things do tend to change eventually. Eventually Florida did beat Georgia, and then eventually Georgia had trouble beating Florida over time. So the thing for the Gators it's just gonna be difficult unless they figure out a way to keep the ball on the ground, run it, and keep that Alabama offense off the field. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, hopefully the rain will hold off. It's supposed to rain, so we'll see.
What else is new?
Yeah, so we're speaking with JC right now. We'll be joined with Ryan Fowler from I think it's called the Tide 100.9 up there. His show's called The Game. Get his thoughts on what he thinks is going to happen in the Swamp on Saturday. JC, some news and notes around. Actually, we got a couple texts here I want to read on the Titan MR text line.
Go ahead.
This one is from Daryl. He says, "Good morning, guys. My son and one of his buddies are going to see the Jags, JC's Jags, on Sunday. I told him he shouldn't waste his money." Hey, well, I'm hearing some rumblings coming out of that locker room, man. It ain't good.
Well, that's right. Urban wants to be a college coach, and I don't. He wants to take over everything.
Well,
drills,
I hear
everything.
Coaches aren't happy. I hear players aren't happy. So I don't know how that's going to turn out.
So how long will it be until he goes to Southern Cal, Shane?
Well, I was going to say here, there's a text here from Gary on the Titan MR text line. He said, "What is it with these media types having Urban Meyer on the USC coaches list? I don't get it."
Well, I mean, why not? Why doesn't he get it? I mean, you're thinking of a guy that potentially could win 3 national titles at 3 different schools. I don't think that's ever been done. Now, granted, he has committed to the Jaguars, but dude, look, this is Urban Meyer we're talking about. Remember, this is a guy that won 2 titles at University of Florida and was gone before the decade turned double digits. Okay, he won in 06, he won in 08, and then shortly after he was bye-bye. He doesn't handle losing. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't prepared to lose before this Jacksonville gig came up, knowing that you're taking over a 1-15 team, right? But it looks like he's the kind of guy who even hates losing preseason games, and they're not relevant for wins and losses, that is. So I don't know, man. I'm with you. I think, look, I don't know about what Urban is one of those guys. He's kind of like, why would Southern Cal not take him if he was available? And why wouldn't he go if he had a chance to take control of a college program again?
Here's the thing. I think Urban's a phenomenal football coach, but he's won at Florida. I know he won at Utah, but let's go back to Florida and what he did at Ohio State. Why do you think he won so many games at those 2 schools, JC?
I think he won so many games at those 2 schools because those 2 schools were able to recruit the players he wanted to recruit.
He had the best players in America.
He had total control of the operation. Okay, there wasn't a general manager or an owner or this or that all over his neck, and he was able to recruit the best players and get it. The draft isn't set up that way. So it takes it now. Turnover in the NFL can happen really quickly. Sure, these are pros, and college it could take a little time, but usually teams with that brand like Ohio State, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, even Southern Cal, even though they've been down, they can turn that thing around a little bit quicker than a developmental school like Iowa or Texas Tech or somebody like that. And I think listen, USC has a new president. They have a new athletic director. I'm just throwing it out there. I know he's got a job already. He's got a game on Sunday. I get it. But they've got all season long to find their coach at Southern Cal because they've already said they're going to go with the staff that they have. So they're going to take their time on this. And over 3 months' time, man, do not be surprised if anything like that doesn't happen. And then there's some other names like Bob Stoops. Well, he's got tequila he's selling, and he plays golf, and he hasn't. Listen, he hasn't
He's
been
bored though. I do know he's bored.
But yeah, and he's got that little itch. He's got that itch. His last coaching job wasn't that long ago. It lasted for about a month and a half, but he got back into it. And even though it was the XFL, he got back into it. So don't think that he's not probably thinking about it, and they may be thinking about him. That's a name. I also heard the name Bill O'Brien at Alabama, the offensive coordinator. I've heard James Franklin get thrown out. We'll talk about coaches' carousels here soon. But Urban Meyer is so close to home. I think it bears mentioning on this program.
Well, yeah, but I think out of all the names you just mentioned, in my opinion, the only one that can turn that program around and win. Because you can win immediately there, and you can be in the 14, 12-team playoff immediately because that conference stinks. And with their tradition and the kids you can get there, Stoops is one, and I still do not leave out Lane Kiffin.
I just don't see a chance of that.
Why?
Because they are moving on. They've moved on from the past.
He's had a lot of success since he's left there. And you just stated they have a new AD, a new president, and all that stuff. He's a California kid, and his kids live there.
Well, I mean, you're the only guy in America that's brought his name up. So, I mean, if you're right,
I saw a couple other so-called national people bring his name up as well as also.
I haven't heard that.
I heard it actually on Dan Patrick's show, believe it or not.
Well, I think, look, Lane Kiffin is a successful. He went to the Nick Saban Academy of Rehabilitation. Okay. Yeah. Many coaches have. Steve Sarkisian, Mike Locksley, and
look where they all are.
And they're all coaching, right? But Lane Kiffin's got a good job at Ole Miss.
But JC, you don't understand. Coaches want to win.
QB. I know they want to win, and I know it's easier to maybe win at Southern Cal than it is.
It ain't easier. It is. It's a fact.
I said that, but they haven't won. Okay, so
because they haven't had the right coach.
Well, sure, but the problem I think you have with Southern Cal and Lane Kiffin is the past. And Southern Cal is not about going backwards. They want to go forward, and they're not going to bring a guy they ran out of town, even though it was a prior administration. I get it. It's the same alumni base. It's the same finances. It's the same place. So it's just not going to happen. But if you're right, listen,
didn't they go back? Didn't they bring John Robinson back?
Who the hell knows? QB, that was the 70s, really 80s. But all I'm telling you is that if you're right on this one, then I will sing your praises. But
I don't really care if I'm right or wrong. I'm just telling you,
you're sticking to it.
He's the best coach for that job, in my opinion.
Okay. No, I don't see a chance in hell, but that's fine.
If you missed it, Mr. Two Bits for Saturday is the real deal Bradley Beal. He will be Mr. Two Bits. Should be exciting to see the Washington Wizard. I assume he's still a Wizard.
Well,
he's the most he might be the most underrated basketball player in the NBA.
Well, he's buried it with a losing team, dude. I mean, he plays for the Memphis Grizzlies or the Washington Wizards or the kind of team that just doesn't get the big market attention. Maybe they would if they won, but it ain't. You know what I'm saying. Listen, if the Wizards won, then he would get that attention. But because they're just awful, I think, we don't really talk much about awful teams in the NBA except ESPN, I guess. But QB, back to the football, Saturday rain, there's got to be a reason why you and Coach Spurrier think Florida's going to win this game.
I didn't say we were going to win the game.
Well,
don't put words in my mouth.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. There are people out there that think Shane Matthews picked Florida. I'm sorry.
I did not.
Something?
I have not said that one time.
Well, then why is it that Shane Matthews was quoted as saying Florida would win the game in many outlets out there, especially in Alabama? But maybe they're misquoting you.
You're the first person that has mentioned that to me, and I have not seen it.
I'll be happy to text it to you.
Yeah,
but let's hear that.
I do not think we can win the game.
But you do
I've said it many times.
You do podcasting with Coach Spurrier, and
He picked Florida to win the game. I did.
Sure.
I did
well,
not.
What was his primary reason? There's got to be one. Is it the home crowd?
He's also the ambassador.
Ambassador. Well, why? Okay, listen. There are two ways to pick a game, and he may be right, but there are two things: you either hope it happens or you really think it's going to happen. Okay, and right now, I don't know if Florida fans are in the hope stage or if they're in the really I think they will stage. Don't say that just because they're playing in front of 90,000 home fans, that's the biggest reason.
I don't remember. He didn't really give me a breakdown. And I like I said, my Facebook Live is not working, so I don't know what people are commenting. But I don't know where you saw that or who said it. But I did not pick Florida to win the game.
I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it, bro.
Well, please send me a screenshot of it.
I will. I sure will.
Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. This September, mention promo code Shane to receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Speaking with JC, we'll be joined by Ryan Fowler of the Tide Radio Network up there in Tuscaloosa. So here's what I said. Maybe these people don't listen.
Okay, let's hear it.
I said, in order for Florida to win, my recipe is they must win the turnover battle by a couple. They must make Bama kick field goals and Florida not kick field goals, and we have to make a play on special teams. If we do all that, we have a chance to win the game. That's exactly what I've said for the last 3 weeks.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, everybody should think that, right? I mean, everybody should say if they win the turnover battle, if they win the line of scrimmage, they're probably going to have a good chance of winning. I mean, that's really going out on a limb, QB. But
I'm just telling you that's how I think we win the game. I don't think we can line up and go toe-to-toe with them. I don't.
I get you. And listen, and I understand it. I do. This is no joke rolling in here. And listen, Florida's, we don't know how good Florida is, although I think they're right now pretty much a one-dimensional team on offense.
Well, let's say this too, JC.
We'll see.
We really don't know how good. We really don't know how good Alabama is either. Honestly, if you think about it.
I realize that when you're up a bunch of points, you tend to play down to the level. Like in the second half against Miami, I think Alabama outscored them by 1 point. And in the Mercer game,
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about Alabama. Miami ain't very good. Okay, let's all agree. App State should have won that game in Miami. We know Alabama is a very good football team, but
they haven't been tested.
Florida will be the best team they've played so far. Hands down.
I'm not arguing that. I think you're 100% right. It's hard to, after 2 games, come on. I mean, nobody knows who's really, really there. Although I will tell you, Georgia's defense and Clemson's defense are as good as I've ever seen. At this point in the year, I would say that for sure. I'd also say that Iowa and Arkansas have showed people that, they're at a point where they've turned their programs into real threats. And I think Oregon. Look at Oregon. Look at UCLA. They're vastly improved teams from a physical standpoint. So, the Pac-12 this year, QB, you make fun of them, but they've got the 2 best wins of the season, without a doubt.
Well, they do, but the rest of the Pac-12 stinks. So, actually, I got my Facebook Live working here, kind of. Joseph says, we don't know how good Alabama is. Miami's garbage, and they don't impress me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Okay. Well, sure. Yeah. All I'm saying is it's early. We don't know. There's a reason, though, that somebody's a 15.5-point favorite. I don't know what that reason is. They just believe it. And that's how they're going to get money on both sides of the coin. If it was less than that, I think there would be an overabundance of money on Alabama. I don't know if you believe in those kinds of things or if you bet on football or think that really means anything. But typically, Vegas is pretty good at these scores. They base these spreads on what they think the final score is going to be. So all I can tell you is that nobody knows anything until we see it happen and we see it play. All you can do is predict and go off the past. And right now, Florida is at the short end of this rivalry, and it's not even been close. It was somewhat close last year in that SEC championship game, but, it was just one of those shootouts. I do think, though, that the Gators will have an opportunity to show us that maybe on defense, they're either the same team they were last year or improved. And this is going to be the best test they're going to see probably all season long. I would say and argue that Alabama's offense is as good as any team you're going to see on the schedule for Florida this year. And I would also tell you that this is the best opportunity for Florida to show us whether or not they can play defense at this level right now, because last year we knew and we saw for ourselves that their defense was horrible. And so this is going to be the best test offensively for Florida to have to try to stop, I think, on the entire schedule. So, that's where you would be. If I'm a Gator fan, and in many ways I am, I'd say I'm most concerned about how Florida is going to play on the defensive side of the ball. We've had so much discussion about what they're going to do offensively with these quarterbacks. How is Mullen going to manipulate the game plan offensively? I would be very concerned about how you're going to stop these guys with that defense, because it doesn't look like Miller's going to be a factor in the game. And we don't know about Florida's front seven, to tell you the truth, do we?
No, there's still a lot of question marks defensively. John asked, is Ventrell Miller out? If he is, that hurts the defense. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if he's going to play or not. Richard says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, Florida can win. Brandon says on Facebook Live here, my Bama friends say they aren't worried about Florida at all.
Well, come on. I mean, think about where they're coming from. Okay? Just sit back for a minute and say to yourself, why would they be concerned about Florida? I mean, when you think about it logically, there isn't a reason why they'd be concerned about Florida until Florida gives them one. Okay. And Florida hasn't given them one since 2008 or 9. So 9 was a good game for a while, but then Alabama pulled away. 2008 was the last time Florida beat these guys. That was the last time. 2008. Every guy you see on that field in 2008 was in elementary school. So, that's why. That's why Alabama fans are way up. Plus, look, they've played in big environments before. They've been to College Station. They've been to LSU. They've been to Auburn. This is just a road game for them. So we'll see.
You know, right? Who else? Lane could be the next LSU coach, by the way, too.
You're still on Lane.
I was just thinking about that because you brought up LSU. I think Ed O is gone after this year. I think he's gone.
Man, he is. That seat will get very warm very quickly if it doesn't turn around quickly. And I know it's just removed from a national title, but that was a once in a generational type of team. Everything fit that team. Everything came together. I think LSU is going to win their next 2 games. The one that's going to really get him either off the hot seat or back on the hot seat is that home game against Auburn on October the 2nd. I think they'll beat Central Michigan. I think they'll beat Mississippi State, although maybe not. Mississippi State's had a lot of success against LSU in Starkville. But Auburn game, October 2nd. Now, look, if he loses to Mississippi State before he plays the Auburn game, 100%. You're right. Yeah, no doubt.
Clay says he is the biggest Alabama fan in the state of Florida, and he is nervous.
You know what? I have a feeling this is the Clay I know, and that guy's nervous driving to McDonald's, okay? So he's always nervous, and he's very respectful of the opponent. But deep down inside, I have a feeling this Clay, if that's the Clay I think it is, I don't think he's just being very respectful. Or maybe he is nervous. I don't know. He's got a lot of Gator friends, I'll tell you that. I know. I
got a text on the Titan MR text line from Joe. Joe says that he heard that Ventrell Miller is out for the year. I haven't heard anything. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So, JC, you have your Penn State visor on. Do you think they beat Auburn?
So I was going to talk about that briefly, and I don't. No, I think Auburn wins the game because I like the way Bo Nix has been coached.
Okay, but let me ask you this:
he's going to win. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: Auburn has looked very good. I think Brian Harson's made a difference. I think Mike Bobo's made a difference. They've played Alabama State and they've played Akron.
Right, and as we said on Monday, QB, they have done nothing yet. Really, nobody has. But I will tell you, they haven't played down to that competition and didn't look sloppy in any way, shape, or form. And, yeah, you're right. I mean, Bo Nix and these guys are playing just barely above high school teams. But Penn State's a whole different world. I get it. I just like the way Auburn's athleticism will travel, I think, in this case. And I'm not sold on Penn State yet because, listen, I watched that Wisconsin game. I know it was the first game of the year. I get that they're going to get better in the second game of the year. And they did, just like just about everybody. But Auburn is athletic, and they will hang with a team that I don't think is as athletic, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, what does your magazine say there about this game?
Well, I do have a magazine in front of me here, and this series is 1-1. They've only played 2 times. Both were in bowl games. So those bowl games were the Capital One Bowl and the Outback Bowl. So it's one of those games where, you're happy to go to Florida, but I'm not really sure if your entire focus is on it like it would be in a regular season game. But, this is the first time since 1931, QB, that Auburn has played a Big Ten team during the regular season. So they don't really get out much, as we say down here in the Southeast. And this is going to be an interesting trip. I mean, the whiteout at Penn State is a 105,000 crowd sea of white that is somewhat different, but just every bit as loud as a day in Neyland Stadium or a day in Tuscaloosa or even here. So I think it'll be a somewhat of an adjustment for them. But, these kids don't care. I really don't think it matters. I think these kids, Auburn's got a very experienced quarterback. He's been through a lot. I don't know how good he is yet, but it looks like he's being coached properly. They're not so concerned about playing fast. They're more concerned about executing the proper plays, lining up correctly, and getting the efficiency out of the offense that Brian Harsin, who was a coach at Boise State, demands his offense to be. And, Boise State's always been pretty good on offense. This guy comes from a system and brings a system to Auburn that I think is tailored better to Bo Nix, I think. Now, listen, Penn State may shut them down. It wouldn't bother me at all to see Auburn lose either. But I think if I had to take 6 points in Auburn, I would run with that all day long at this juncture. We'll see.
Vince says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, Penn State will lose to Villanova on 9/25. Go Cats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's thinking of basketball.
They're not playing basketball. That's the only thing. I think he's confused. He thinks they're playing a basketball game, and he's probably right about that. But no, Penn State is going to be the favorite, I think, in the East. I think Maryland is better. I don't think they're a threat to win the East, though. I think that Penn State, with a little momentum, they could play Ohio State and maybe beat them. I just said I think Penn State may win the East, but I'm going to change that. I still think Ohio State's going to win the East. I think Michigan is a paper tiger. I'm not worried about Michigan. Rutgers is a better team with Schiano. I think they're pretty good. Michigan State has looked a little bit better, with what they're trying to do there. And I think Michigan State, by the way, beats Miami this weekend. I think they do. So that's what I'm thinking.
This is a great Facebook Live. This one made me laugh.
Okay.
John said, they said Brent Peace was a good OC because he came from Boise too.
They did say logic. That. Well, listen, Boise
actually,
State's pretty
Mike
good
Bobo's
offense,
calling the plays. Harsin ain't calling the plays. Bobo.
Well, that's true. Okay, that's fine. But Harsin is the head coach, right? And he brought in Mike Bobo because that's what he wants to run. So, whoever calls the plays calls the plays. I mean, I know that a different guy calls the plays when Ole Miss is playing, but it goes through Lane Kiffin's headset before it gets to Frank Corral, before it gets to Matt Corral. Okay, so Boise State's always been pretty efficient on offense. Hell, one of their quarterbacks is now the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. I mean, I think Boise State breeds pretty good football, and I think Auburn did a good job by finding this guy. We'll see if he can get his team ready on Saturday, and that'll be a big litmus test. But Ohio State, Penn State, I think are going to have the 2 best chances to win the East. And remember, that game between Ohio State and Penn State's in Columbus at the Horseshoe. They'll probably figure out how to stop the run by then, but that's their problem right now. They can't figure out how to stop anybody.
All right, JC, before we let you go, does Urban make it through the year?
Urban will. I think he's committed to Sean for a year, but I also think that there will be, if it goes the way it looks like it's going to go, and certainly I was hoping it wouldn't, but if it does. What have you done with all your Jaguar paraphernalia you bought? Oh, they're still in the closet, and I've got it hanging on over there at the condo in St. Augustine, but I'm not sporting it right now, bro. They got to show me something. They got to give me a reason to put it on this golden dome, this beautiful brown dome head of mine. They got to show me a reason why I need to sport that stuff, dude. I don't just wear anything because it's there. I got to have a reason. So, So listen, I think Jacksonville is in trouble. Denver will probably beat them this week. It's too bad. I know that Urban's home game, first game of the season at home. I just don't know if he's going to be really up for going through the rigors of the NFL. I think he's figuring it out, or he will figure out by the end of the year that USC looks a lot better.
Yeah, so we shall see. It'll be interesting.
We shall.
All right, JC.
All right, buddy.
Have a good day. We're going to
Friday.
talk a little more Alabama football with our good friend Ryan Fowler from up in Tuscaloosa.
That's right. Okay,
right,
we'll see
JC.
you Friday.
JC, join us on the Titan MR hotline. Going to take our first time out of the program. We come back. We'll get a little thoughts from Ryan Fowler, see what the Tide's thinking as they roll into Gainesville. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Visor's Tailgate and Rooftop Bar, located on top of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point, is now open Thursday through Saturday. Visor's covered open-air bar is the perfect place to gather after work or meet up with friends. You'll love the handcrafted cocktails and elevated shareables available every Thursday through Saturday. Visor's Tailgate and Rooftop Bar is perfect for fans of great food, great drinks, and great weather. Visors not required. High spirits are highly encouraged. Visit spurriers.com/visors.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, and we're on the road today. But Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Bass Pro Shops, Regal Cinemas, Le Macaron French Pastries, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, and the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Make your reservations today at spurriers.com. And now open is Thursday through Saturday is Visor's Tailgate and Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by our good friend up in Tuscaloosa, Ryan Fowler. You can listen to him on 100.9. His show is Monday through Friday from 2 to 6. That's a long time to have a show, my man. How are you, Ryan?
Yeah, and every Tuesday we actually connect with somebody that you played up against, Spartan Houston, and we do 5 hours on Tuesday, and we do an extra hour. So, listen, Alabama football is always the dominant conversation. We've been belly aching and complaining all week. Nick Saban's mad, so we're supposed to be mad, and we've had a pretty fun show. So it's kind of funny. He'll set the tone of the week. If he's mad, we're mad. If he's happy, we're happy.
Yeah, so Ryan, you've been covering Alabama, especially under this dominance under Nick Saban. Talk when he wants to get mad. And don't you think it depends on who the upcoming opponent is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Listen, when you go back, and I accused him last week, Wednesday night, following practices, he usually gives a press conference. And it's one of those that, you can almost tell if the team has had a good week of preparation. Well, he was pretty upset, and he talked about how his team was not focused coming off of that Miami win, and how, they came out on Monday and, they were belly aching, complaining it was hot in Tuscaloosa. And he said, just didn't have a mental focus. He said maybe it has something to do with not respecting your opponent. Well, sure. I mean, you're playing Mercer. Let's not kid ourselves. These guys just got through with Miami, sandwiched in between another game that they'll be playing with the Florida Gators. So, yeah, I mean, Mercer's not a team that will grab you. But Nick Saban tries to preach, don't look at the opponent, execute every single play. Don't look at the scoreboard. And I think that, people are human. When they look at Mercer, it doesn't really grab everybody's attention. So Nick Saban was a little bit upset, and he kind of preached to his team. And then they came out, and I almost wonder sometimes, and Shane, you might be a better person to pick, but sometimes I almost wonder, a conspiracy in me says, does Nick Saban set this up to allow his team to not perform at their maximum performance? Like, does he set it up where they run some of the plays that they're really, really bad at, or they don't call the defense aggressive, where he can go, see what I'm talking about? See, last week we had a bad week of practice, and look at how we perform. Look at, and I'm not talking about the mental mistakes, but just kind of setting up the game plan. You know that you're going to beat Mercer, but something tells me when they came back in for film session on Sunday and Monday, that there was full attention. A lot of front row students inside that football building on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, he's a master motivator. He figures it out. There's no question. So, Ryan, when you look at this team, we all know the talent they lost, all the first rounders on the offense, historical season offensively. You've only seen 2 games, and Bryce Young was the #1 high school quarterback coming out of California. Have you been impressed with how he's played so far?
Absolutely, yes. He has exceeded my expectations. And I guess the part that jumps out to me is just how cool, calm, collective. He doesn't really get rattled. And I'm kind of excited to see him go to Gainesville because, there's 88,000 that will hate him inside that stadium. And they will give him, it's a big game. It's probably the, craziest environment he's ever been in when you look at, any situation. And I know he got a little bit of dose of that over in Atlanta, but it's nothing like going to the swamp. So when you take a look at this Bryce Young, when he receives pressure, he doesn't avoid, I've watched some quarterbacks and, here in the past with Jalen and some others that it's kind of like, okay, the pressure, and it makes them do something else. If you look at Bryce, I think the one thing that he does well is he keeps those eyes down the field. Like, he receives pressure, but then he doesn't – it seems like the pressure doesn't get to him the same way that I've seen other quarterbacks. Like, he sticks with whatever the play was called, and if you watch him, like, he'll avoid the pressure and he'll move the pocket, but his eyes stay down the field. And I don't know if that's something that just comes with his talent skill set or the way that he's prepared. But it is simply a lot of fun to watch him, play the position as a true, not a true freshman, but I guess if he gets a COVID year, I'm not sure if you want to listen to a true sophomore, but however they're doing that. But second year player would be the best way to do it. That's the part that is he does. And when he speaks to the media, he sounds like a 15-year NFL veteran. I mean, it's like the way that he breaks down the game is pretty incredible, and just a cool, calm, collective guy.
Offensively, let's talk about Billingsley, the star tight end / receiver. I thought he was outstanding last year. How much has he played at all this year in Florida?
Yeah, he has. Now, he's lost some of his responsibility to Cameron Latou, which is another good-looking tight end. They've got some, pretty decent. And I think the tight ends are going to have a bigger role. I just think those are some of those rook cards that they're kind of putting in their back pocket. They jumped on Miami pretty quick, so they didn't have to use. Cameron Latou actually scored 2 touchdowns in that game. Billingsley did not play for the first part of that game. I think he came in with a couple of minutes to go in the second quarter. And really, I don't know exactly. Like, everybody pretends like Billingsley, doghouse, he did something ultimately wrong. Well, I mean, Nick Saban said it had to do with COVID protocols. So I don't know if that's like not wearing your mask, or I have no clue. I don't know what, when he said that, but he talked about being a guy, be a part of a team. He talked about being a better teammate, not just worried about himself. And I think Nick Saban was not only trying to send a message to Billingsley, but he was trying to send a message to the rest of the younger players that, hey, you got to be a team. You can't be an eye in the building. So Billingsley, I think, will have a dynamic role once they crank him up. But it's like, you got through Miami. He was looked like he was a little bit of disciplinary action that first quarter, did not start, was not on the depth chart at that first spot, and has had to work his way back into it. So I still think that you're going to see Billingsley in a dynamic role. I just don't know when that is. Maybe it happens when in Gainesville, they'll roll him out.
Yeah. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Ryan Fowler. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan C. Fowler and listen to his program up in Tuscaloosa on Tide 100.9 Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. Central Time. All right, Ryan, let's switch over to defense.
Can I point out one other thing?
Absolutely.
Shane? Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I know there was an audio clip of you and Coach Spurrier, and you were talking about the offensive line. And I agree with you when you look at this offensive line. This is not Alabama's offensive line of last year. When you look at Landon Dickerson, Alex Leatherwood, Deontay Brown, that's the one question around this Alabama team is, for one, the chemistry, but they've had to try to fix things at this offensive line spot. When you look at Darian Dalcourt at center, I think they're okay with him. Emil Ekiyor, he's played a lot of football here. You're okay with him. Cohen's a guy. Evan Neal, you're fine with him at left tackle. But at right tackle, you've had to slide your center from last year, Chris Owens, out to right tackle. And the offensive line is just not what we've come to expect in Tuscaloosa under Nick Saban. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I thought, a couple of weeks ago prior to camp, you guys had talked about that before, and wherever you got your information was pretty solid, because this offensive line does have a lot of questions.
Yeah, I figured, I was thinking that might be the so-called weakness of Alabama this year, because they lost so many good players. And I'm very good. One of my closest friends has twins that are freshman offensive linemen at Alabama, the Brockermeyer boys. So He told me that, obviously there's a lot of turnover right there on the offensive line, but they still do a phenomenal job. Defensively, what's the status of the injured linebackers?
Well, I just have to go with what Nick Saban, because I don't know what you guys are doing there at Florida, but we're completely blocked out of practice. So we have no access to practice. Okay. I didn't know if that was the same way, but Nick Saban locked us out. I guess it was probably like the fourth day of camp, and we have not been back, so we don't have any access. So talking to people, I feel like that he's probably a guy that you would probably list as a questionable, even though we don't have that type of injury report, in college football like they do the NFL. Will Anderson, it seems like that there's nothing structural about him. So as far as the knee, there doesn't seem to be that. So I would imagine that based on what Nick Saban said. Now Saturday night, there was a lot of concern there. And you could even tell it in Nick Saban's voice. Well, then Monday he rolls out at the noon press conference and says, we are very encouraged. And he said, we are more encouraged today than we was Saturday night. And so he said he's going to miss Monday's practice and will be day to day, and they'll see how the knee responds. So when you look at Will Anderson, he's a freak. He's an absolute freak. And we'll see if he's able to go. I would, this is not based on anything other than Ryan's opinion. I think it would take a ton for Will Anderson not to be able to go. The guy's just a freak when you look at his ability, but that's strictly based on opinion. I have not heard a lot of information coming out of practice. We'll talk to Nick Saban today at 11 o'clock on the SEC teleconference, and that'll be the first time that we've spoken to him since Monday at noon.
When you look at this defense, obviously Saban's had great defenses since he's been at Alabama. The last couple of years been kind of shaky. We all know how it started early in the year playing against Ole Miss and those type of teams. Do you think this defense is back to being elite, how Saban likes it?
I do. And I think it starts with guys like Will Anderson. Now, let's just say that something happened and Will's not a part of, this team for a long term. Not saying that it is, but I think it starts with him. When you look at the pressure, you can do a lot of things with defensive formations if you can get pressure and not having to bring a lot of bodies. And I think Will Anderson gives you that pressure that makes people try to find a way to double team him, to put more pressure on him, to find. So when you look at this defense, I think it's all centered around Will Anderson. Henry To'oTo'o is a great player, really is another guy that's exceeded my expectations as a transfer. Coming in 2 months later, he's the signal caller. Now, it did help that he was in the Jeremy Pruitt system. But, you take a look at this defensive side of the football, I do think they're elite, and I think it also starts up front. In the trenches, they've got 7, 8, 9 guys that they can rotate on that defensive front, and I think they feel pretty comfortable with those guys.
All right, Ryan, let's switch.
Depth-wise.
Okay, let's switch to the Gators. Obviously, Florida played the closest game Alabama had last year was the Gators in the SEC title game. From the perception of the Alabama fan base, people calling your show leading up to this game, how do the Alabama faithful look at this Florida football team? Any concerns going to the Swamp?
Well, I think it's the toughest game Alabama has on the schedule. When you look at it on the road, early on, you're still developing the chemistry. You're still developing this team. You're still developing, a lot of different things. You're finding roles, leadership, and that's another area. Last year, there was 4 captains at Alabama that were designated as permanent team captains. All 4 of those guys were from the offensive side of the football, and those guys are now gone. So you don't have the leadership, and I think that's the one area that Bryce is a great leader, but he needs more than just him to be that leader. And right now, I don't see a lot of that leadership. So I think about those type of things that you travel to Gainesville with. I think about Alabama Mercer when they was getting sloppy and they were doing 3 and outs and you couldn't have success against Mercer. I'm going, okay, who's the guy that is rallying the troops? Yeah, I mean, you see the coaches over there, yelling and screaming and throwing things and all the different things there. But I think the big part for me was to watch the leaders and like, okay, where's the leaders on offense? I can identify the leaders on the defensive side of the football. We could talk about those for the next hour, but I just don't see enough there. I'm wondering if you go into a hostile environment, that galvanizing moment, if they bring some of those leaders out of Gainesville. So to answer your question, yes, Alabama fans respect Florida a ton, and I think they think that it's either this or Texas A&M that'll be their biggest test on the road.
Yeah, I actually, my preseason pick to win the conference going out on a limb was the Aggies because I love their skill guys, but with Haynes King being out, I don't know if they can get it done. How's the guy? Is it Kool-Aid McKinstry? Is that his name? Yeah,
young player. Yeah, very, very much. And he's officially changed his name, I guess, in the record books or in the stats. It's not just a nickname. Kool-Aid McKinstry, and name, image, and likeness. I'm sure he's got a pretty good deal with Kool-Aid, and he's a pretty creative guy, and he's a young player. Now, he's going to make mistakes that is growing pains, but you could see that he may be that next future, first-round defensive back. He's just, growing pains right now, but he played a lot in this past game because they were missing both of their corners, Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour-Davis, and Nick Saban said that they could have probably went, but they didn't get enough practice reps against the option style offense that he felt that, they could play up to their ability. So he held Jalen Armour-Davis and Josh Jobe out of this past game against Mercer. And I would expect them to be a full go as they head into Gainesville coming up on Saturday.
Well, Ryan, it should be a good one. 3:30 Eastern time this Saturday in the Swamp. Let everybody know if they want to tune in to some Alabama talk, how they can listen to you.
Hey, absolutely. You know, we have a couple of Gator guys too that call in and they stir it up. I mean, they get it all fired up. We got a guy that actually, he goes by Gator Man, and he calls in, and I look up on the call board and I said, uh-oh, and here goes my show, because he'll come in talking smack. So we have a few Gator guys. We don't allow Auburn people to participate because they've got to be able to count to 10. So that's a test that we give, and most of them are not able to pass. But we have a pretty good caller representation from a lot of the SEC schools. But we do it 2 until 6 every afternoon. 2 until 6, Tide 100.9, which is the flagship home of Alabama football. We have a great app, and people can listen to Alabama football every single day, 4 hours each afternoon. Shane, I appreciate you guys, man. Excited to see what this team is made of. I won't be able to make it to Gainesville just because of logistical. I don't get off until 6 on Friday evening. It'd be a pretty tough turnaround to make it down there by 2:30. But you guys have a great game, and I'm so glad college football is back the way that it should be. Fans in the stands and the loudness. I mean, that's what college football, and that's one of the reasons why we love it. Thank you again.
Yes, sir. No doubt about it. We appreciate you taking the time, Ryan. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
You too. Thank you, Shane.
Yep, that's Ryan Fowler. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. Going to take our final time out of the program, come back, wrap up this Wednesday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Center State Bank is now South State Bank, but we still put business first. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking forward, member FDIC. I want to thank JC and our good friend Ryan Fowler up from 100 The Tide up in Tuscaloosa, talking a little Alabama with us. Leading up to the game on Saturday. Appreciate them joining us on the Titan MR Hotline. This Day in Sports is brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. They are hiring with great culture and benefits and opportunity for growth, $1,000 signing bonus for qualified positions. Give Comfort Temp a call today. That's 352-376-2366. This Day in Sports in 1961, Jack Nicklaus at age 21 wins the U.S. Golf Amateur Championship. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, folks. We're going to have our college football analyst, Brent Beard. He can give us a lot of news and notes around the SEC, also get his thoughts on USC, who may be their next football coach. We'll also have our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We're leading up into week 4 of high school football. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Be safe out there. Today's show is a wrap. Brought to you by Wrap Spot. See you tomorrow.
Trying to get the fans fired up. 2nd down and 10. Matthews rolling to his right, in trouble. Can't find anyone. Now he throws it for Harrison Houston, who makes the catch. He's in the open field. Harrison to the 20. They're not going to catch him. Touchdown, Gators!